Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Hey, welcome back to the Next to Madison podcast. Another exciting episode. I am sitting down with professional athlete, NBA player Xavier Silas on episode 193 of this podcast. This episode was great. We talked not only about his professional career with Philadelphia Sixers, 76ers, and the Celtics and the Nuggets. We also talked about his mindsets and pregame rituals and visualizations that set him up for success, and also his new coaching career. So this is a great episode. We talked about visualization. We talked about what it takes to be coachable, what it takes to make a great coach. Positive self-talk, how your words really impact your day and your life. So be careful of how you speak to yourself, and also just having blind faith, how to build confidence, how being unrealistic can actually help you become super successful. It's this blind faith and belief in yourself. So this was a wonderful episode. So I'm excited for you guys to hear it. We'll be right back with the full episode after this brief message.
Hey, it's Madison Malloy. I'm excited to announce that my new book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up, is now available online and in stores. You can pick up your copy today by going to Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. This new book is a humorous self-help guide to help you remove the obstacles that are holding you back so you can take things less seriously and live a more enjoyable life. I'm so excited for you to read it. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. We are with our guest on this exciting episode. With me today, I've got former NBA player and basketball coach, Xavier Silas. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm so excited to have you on this podcast. You've played for numerous NBA teams before you became a coach. Can you tell us about some of those teams?
Yeah, not only numerous NBA teams, but numerous teams overseas. I was in the G League. I played in the Big Three. I mean, I've been all over the place: South America, Asia, Europe. It's everywhere. So,
Yeah.
started off at the University of Colorado. Went to Northern Illinois to follow my coach, and then my professional career started. It was 9 years long, and now I'm in my fourth year coaching. And so it's been a journey, but it's fun.
Yeah. And name some of the teams for our listeners that you've played for, the professional
So it
teams.
was the Celtics, it was the Philadelphia 76ers, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Those were the main three. I had a little stint with the Nuggets for the vet camp stuff. So I've been there, but I've also been, in Argentina and in Greece and in France and all these different places. So it was, like I said, it was a journey, but I learned a lot along the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And being a professional athlete, I mean, you are performing at such a different level. Like what are some of the mindsets that you had to adopt or had to live by in order to compete at a high professional level?
I think it's a little bit different than any other profession because this profession, you grow up kind of playing it for fun and then it turns into a job. And so making that switch into, oh, it's not fun anymore. I'm not just playing with my friends. This is work. And so having the mindset of, you're playing a game, but it is work and finding the balance of still having some fun because that's what makes you good and great, but also treating it like a job and taking care of business as such. So I would say that was the biggest thing when we're talking about approach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it just the amount of focus you have to have. Did your coaches ever work on, besides the physical sport, work on, mindset type strategies or anything with you guys, and like how to keep focus?
I would say that has become more popular lately.
Okay.
Back in the day, it was old school. It was tough coaching. It was, yelling at you and all that stuff. And now it's gone from that to every NBA team has a sports psychologist on staff and they're required to do so. And so it wasn't always like that. And so, I was kind of in the middle when they were kind of getting into it. And so I started to meditate, but that was more on my own, right? And
Hmm.
so meditation, journaling, visualization, all those things are things that I kind of picked up. And now it's almost becoming the norm, across professional sports. And so it wasn't so much the coaches when I was playing, it was more, self-taught, self-seeking.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so when you were playing professionally, were you doing these visualization and meditation exercises?
I was. So I had a routine, especially on game day, where I
Uh-huh.
would meditate and I would visualize before the game. Like my whole routine was predicated on my meditation and visualization time. So I did it at the same time every pregame. I did my physical routine, then I would go in, I would do my mental routine, then we would go out and play. And I kind of, over my career, it grew and it changed, but I found a really good groove, and it was super helpful.
Oh, I can imagine. So were your visualizations just you performing the way you wanted to, winning the game, or did it involve more?
I think that, and I've done a lot. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to this. I've done a lot of research on this. And so, there are some studies that say visualizing me taking a jump shot is the equivalent to actually taking it as far as repetition goes. So I can go and I can visualize me taking a jump shot from the corner 100 times, and that's as good, or it counts as much to my body as 100 real repetitive and me actually doing it. And so when I
Wow.
figured that, then I started kind of going through the shots that I thought that I would get in the game. And, when you get into the season, you kind of figure out where your shots are going to come from. And so I started having a checklist of going down and figuring and visualizing every single shot, right? Every type of shot. And, anyone that understands sports and understands how to build skill in sports understands that repetition is how you do that, but there's a balance with that because you can't kill your body, especially during the season. And so
Mhm.
mental visualization is one way to get reps, but save your body. And so that's what I would do. And it was very helpful.
So do you think that mental visualization builds your skill set just as much? Meaning like you have to practice something before you become a quote unquote expert.
Mhm.
So visualizing yourself doing it and succeeding
Mhm.
helps build that expertise.
That mastery,
Just
I
like
like
you're
to call it
physically
mastery.
doing it. Okay.
Right. So in basketball, there's a lot of different things you can become a master at. You can become a master at shooting. You can become a master at defense. It's how do you achieve mastery level, right? And
Uh-huh.
of course, you have to do it. You have to physically do it. I'm not saying that you can sit here and just in your mind become this really good shooter, but I do think that it's a great supplement and it's a great
Yeah.
addition to doing it physically. I think that the person that does both physical and mental work is going to be ahead of the person that just only does physical work.
Oh, I 100% agree. Absolutely. I mean, we've heard about the mind work for years, but I feel like more people are paying attention to it now and kind of, making things happen. Because, I've done some episodes on this podcast about the subconscious mind and how important it is and how it's our blueprint and kind of, what we visualize and our self-talk is a big thing.
Self-talk is what I was about to say next. Self-talk,
Okay.
there's a book called Mind Gym. I don't know if you've read it,
Uh-uh.
but it's huge for an athlete, and it a lot of it has to talk about or talks about self-talk. And one thing that I got from that is, the way that you talk can only affect your next play negatively, right? So
Hmm.
if I miss that shot and I say, dang, that's only going to mess up my neck the next time I do something, right? It's not going to change what already happened. So it makes no point to have negative self-talk because it can only affect you negatively moving forward. It can't change your past for the positive.
No, I like that. That's a really good point because I've had, people say to me in the past too, your words are powerful, watch your words. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes as humans, we default to, oh, I'm not that smart, or I'm not that skinny, or I need to lose 5 pounds or whatever. But these are all things that actually impact you and like your next move.
And one thing that you try to do in sports is you try to get into the zone. And a lot of people say try to get in the flow, right? I'm sure you've heard that before.
Mhm.
And the surest way to not get in the flow or to not get in the zone is negative talk. Um, or and the argument is positive talk too. It's kind of like staying
Yeah.
like a train track, right? It's like, okay, I'm having a good game. I'm not gonna mess this up or get out of the zone by being cocky and cheering and getting in people's face because I'm having a good game, or I'm not gonna get down on myself either. So, there's this. The trick is staying like a railroad and not being like a roller coaster, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the idea.
Right, because you don't want to have those like, those really down days and then the really up days. Like it's really kind of, to stay kind of even keeled. So
Right.
now that you're out of the NBA, you've moved into coaching.
Mhm.
And so are these the principles that you have in your everyday life with the mindset? Are you applying that to your new team?
Yeah, I think that again, it's so new still, that it's a process of getting everyone on board with it all. But
Mhm.
all of my values and everything that I do and all of that kind of the foundation of it all is this what we're talking about, right? And
Yeah.
so anytime I can get with a player who's open to it, like I remember I had a player 2 years ago that was struggling mentally and asked me, hey man, like how do I get out of this rut? And then I was able to, dive into all this stuff. Look, read this book, download this app, meditate at this time. And then, but it's delicate because you don't want to mess with someone who's doing their thing and they're not asking for help either. So I don't try to impose on people, but when they need help, I'll definitely help them with it and give them some advice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so tell us about your team that you're coaching now. It's down in Puerto Rico. How's that experience been for you?
So we're just getting started with it. The season hasn't started. It's more like a summer league. So it's from March until July. I'm the head coach down there, a team called the Guanabo Mets, right? It's a suburb right outside of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Um, and it has a lot of tradition, very historic franchise. And the BSN, which is the name of the league, is a very historic franchise as well. Phil Jackson got his start there, PJ Carlissimo. A lot of different people started coaching there. And so it's a great league. It's fast paced, it's fun. The fans are crazy. The road games are insane. They're on top of you, they're yelling at you, and so it's a great place to get some experience and a great place to coach. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and how long have you been coaching this team?
This is going to be my first year. So the last 3 years I've been in the NBA G League with the Detroit Pistons organization and the Philadelphia 76ers organization. And
Okay.
I was running the offense for those teams. So this is my first head coaching job, my in my fourth year coaching. And so everything's kind of moving fast, but I'm prepared and ready to go.
Good. And what in your mind makes an excellent coach?
I think being able to relate. I think that some coaches, a lot of coaches never played before, and some coaches don't understand the player's perspective. And I think that that's important. If you don't have that perspective or don't understand where they're coming from, you can't really connect with them and relate to them. And so that probably is the most important thing, because the most important thing is getting guys to play for you and buy into what you're saying. And if you can't do that, and if you can't relate to them, if you can't put yourself in their shoes, it's going to be really hard to do that.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. And so are you part of the recruiting process as well? Like what are some things that you look for in a player besides just points or statistics?
I think, having the mental capacity to be resilient is probably one of the most important things. Guys that have a chip on their shoulder and want
Yeah.
to prove something, and then also how well can you fit into a team? Um, are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to go above and beyond? Those are all things that I look at when I'm building the roster. So I've been the GM and I have been working very closely to build the roster. And those are some of the values and the important things that I've, said, hey, look, this guy has to be able to do this. Can't be a problem in the locker room, has to have great character, has to be focused off the court. And so there's a lot of things that go into it, but those are the main things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because you're dealing with young
Mhm.
guys that get a lot of attention. So that kind of brings me to the next question because I was actually recently at a Nuggets game
Mhm.
and our seats they weren't bad, but they were in the first section one,
Mhm.
and it was so funny because I was with a buddy of mine and we saw these two like really beautiful women like
Mhm.
walking behind the courtside seats, and
Right.
my friend said, "Yep, somebody on the opposing team saw them and relocated them so they can talk, so they can have eye contact and talk to them after."
Mhm.
And he goes, "That's a normal thing for the NBA to do." And I'm like, "You would think moving those women would be a pure distraction and would be something as a coach or an NBA owner that I would say, absolutely not. This is not happening."
Right.
But it does happen. I witnessed it.
Right.
I was like,
I
that's a
think
pure distraction.
there's a lot of distractions, in a lot of different ways. Women and all that is one way, but the media is the media and how everything kind of unfolds with that is distracting. Just the fans are distracting, your family is distracting, like there's every time every kind of thing that you can think of. There are a lot of distractions, and so that's why it's so important when you're vetting the players that you want to be on your team. Is like, how focused are they? What do they hold valuable? What are their values? What are their priorities? What are they trying to do here? Because there's a lot of people that approach the game a lot of different ways. Some just want to have fun and they want to live that life and they want to do all of that. Some are like, no, I don't care about any of that. I'm sacrificing and I want to win a championship, or I want to be the best that I can be. And so, there are a lot of distractions. And also, you asked the question of like, what is it like? And I think that with having this job, and it's a 24/7 job. It's one of the only jobs where you're on 24/7, because how you eat really, that affects how you play, how you sleep, what you drink. All those things affect how you're going to be able to perform at work. That's not the same as I mean, okay, to a certain extent, it's the same as that, or in the world of being a lawyer or a businessman or woman, but it's
Right.
not the same, when it's like your performance is based on how you treat your body and what you do off of the court, and so it's one of those things where you really have to be on top of everything all the time, and that can be stressful.
Yeah.
um that can be stressful, and when you add distractions on top of all of that, then you can see how this thing can get a little crazy.
No, absolutely. So let's talk about nutrition then.
Mhm. Mhm.
What are your tips like to perform at your optimal level, whether you're an athlete or just anyone else who wants to be successful?
You know what
And
I would say? The best tip that I got, and I can't even remember where I got it from, was when you're grocery shopping, shop on the outside of the store.
I've heard that, yeah.
Anything on the inside is processed, so if you're all good if you stay on the outside with the produce, with the dairy, with the meats, with all that stuff. But as soon as you start getting into the inside aisles, that's when it's coming from a factory and it's processed and it's not real whole food, right? And so
Yeah.
that's probably my best tip that I heard, and that helped a lot.
No, that's very key. And then what about physical exercise and
Yeah, really at the point when you're getting to, an elite level, right? And you're into it. I would say that lifting is more so injury prevention thing than it is like getting big and getting strong thing,
yeah,
Um,
100%.
weightlifting and staying on top of all of that is going to prolong your career. And so that's why,
Hmm.
and so, in the NBA specifically, it's not a whole lot of power cleans and hang cleaning and doing all this heavy lifting. It's more focused on how can I stay strong so that I can endure a long season and not get injured, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important. And look, I say this all the time. You don't have to have a trainer to stay on top of your body. YouTube, all these different things. You can go on there and do Pilates and yoga and full body workouts with no weights or with weights or whatever. Um, you can do that on your own. And that's what I tell my players. If you want to take it seriously and go above and beyond, be resourceful and go out there and get it done.
Yeah, no, it's so important. And the weight, you're hearing the weight thing more and more and more. It's like you really want to be in the best fit, shape or have the best body type, up your protein and lift really heavy weights.
Right.
Because you go to the gym and you see all these people just wasting out,
Yeah.
45 minutes to an hour on a cardio machine.
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, that's good, to build up your cardiovascular, but it's not going to do anything necessarily for the shape of your body.
Yes, it's not going to shape your body. It's not going to make you feel better necessarily. And so, if you're trying to feel better and if you're trying to and look better, then you're going to have to start lifting some weights. And it doesn't always have to be lifting. It can be body weight stuff too. You can
Yeah.
you can do body weight squats, you can do push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups and all that stuff, and that's just as good as lifting weights, but you got to start pushing and pulling for sure.
No, that is for sure. And upping the protein too.
Right.
Like
Right.
how
Absolutely.
important it is to get that protein in. And for me, it's like I for so many years I wasn't eating enough protein, and then a trainer was like, "Oh yeah, you need to get like 100 grams of protein," and I'm like, "What?
Right.
Like that's a lot." So now when I'm shopping, I'm looking for things that are very, you know, high in protein.
That's how you build muscle mass.
Yeah, that's why. So I remember I was in Florida and people were like, "You look good," and I was, and it's more protein and heavier weights.
Mhm.
And
That'll
that's always the key. But let's talk about being coachable. That's something I've seen pop up on different social media sites, and a lot of people have coaches, whether they're athletes or whether they're business people or people that are trying to accomplish a goal. There's so many coaching programs that are out there, but what it like you have to be coachable,
right.
right? So you can hire any coach you want, but if you're not coachable, so like, what are some tips for the listeners to be more coachable, to be able to benefit from the information that they're getting or hiring?
I think that, when we're talking about being coachable, you have to look at it as being mutually beneficial, right? And what I mean by that is just be the best version of yourself, right? If
Yeah.
you just go into the thing saying, look, I'm going to be the best version of myself,
Yeah.
that person is coachable. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then, okay, if that doesn't check the box for you, how about the golden rule, which is treating people how you want to be treated, right? So just always be conscious of the coach and being putting yourself in their shoes, right? Would you want to deal with someone if you were a coach? Would you want to deal with someone like you, right? and that
Very well said.
and once you do that, then you start looking, okay, well, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this a little better. Or maybe I should be more receptive, or maybe I should be more respectful in this way, or maybe I should show up a little earlier, or try harder, or whatever it is, right? Just think about, hey, if I were the coach, would I want to deal with me?
Yeah.
And that'll clear things up pretty easily.
And I like that analogy just kind of in life in general, right?
Right.
Like to kind of take a self inventory in a way and just say, how you're presenting yourself to the world or how you're thinking or the energy you're bringing. Like, would I want to deal with me? Would I like me? Would I want to hire me? Would I want to, promote me? All that stuff I think can kind of put people in check.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Which
it's an easy way to check yourself.
Yeah, because if sometimes you don't look inside and you're just thinking like, well, this person's frustrating or whatnot, but it's like, what are you bringing to the table that might be contributing to that frustrating, situation? So on the next of Madison podcast, obviously we need a lot of, useful information to help improve your lives. But I also like to have the funny stories. So you being an NBA player with these great teams, you gotta share some of the fun, funny, dirty, raunchy, whatever you got, best stories from being an NBA player because I know you got some.
Let's think about that.
At least ones you can share without getting in trouble.
All the good ones I can't share.
Damn.
About let me think on that. Let's keep going, and I'll have something by the end of this deal.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say was your best experience from being a professional athlete?
I honestly would say, and this will go with the best story as
Okay.
well. I would say, getting called up to the Philadelphia 76ers my rookie year and going to the second round of the playoffs and playing in the playoffs and scoring in the playoffs, which is like, to me, I think that's the coolest
Yeah.
thing I probably did. And scoring in the second. There's a lot of people that played a lot of years in the NBA and haven't gotten into a game in the second round of the playoffs and scored. And so
That's awesome.
I remember, the first round as a rookie, there's 15 guys, or no, I'm sorry, 14 guys that dress, right? And as a rookie, sometimes there's, if you're 15, you don't dress, you kind of wear a suit. So if you ever watching, you see people over there in street clothes, they're on the team, but they're not clear to play that day. They're not on the roster, they're not on the active roster, I should say.
Okay.
And so in the first round, I wasn't on the active roster. I was in a suit, I'm cheering the team on. You go out there, like to give an example, you do everything the team does, except when they go out there, you change into your suit and you go and sit on the bench, right? And so during that series, we're playing the Chicago Bulls, and the series goes to, I think, game 6. So it's 6 games going back and forth from Philadelphia and Chicago. And during that time, every chance I got, I just went balls to the wall as hard as I could. So if it was in practice, I'm sprinting. Everybody else they're playing, so they're kind of chilling and going through the motions because they're kind of saving their bodies. But for me, I'm going hard. I'm sprinting everything. I'm talking my energy, and we beat the Bulls. We get to Boston, who we're playing, and the head coach comes up and says, "You're gonna dress. You're gonna be active because of what you did and how hard you were going in the first round when you weren't playing." And so I would say that that's probably like the best
Yeah.
story, because it's just like hard work paying off, and it was just, you know what I mean, like the hard work paid off, the belief in working hard, because a lot of people in that situation, and I see it all the time, like if you're not playing, they're sulking and they're like whatever, and
Yeah.
they are down on themselves. But I took it upon myself to say, you know what, I'm gonna go as hard as I possibly can every chance I got, above and beyond, and it paid off. And so I would say that that's like the best story I have and the best lesson I have for just life in general, that happened to me during my professional career.
Yeah, no, it's true. Hard work does pay off, right? And having that positive mindset. So would you say that most NBA players have high levels of confidence, or did you witness some that really kind of didn't have the confidence they needed?
I think you have to,
Yeah.
you have to. The NBA is the hardest professional league to get into in the world, statistically.
Okay.
right? So in order to do that, you have to have supreme confidence. You can't not saying that there isn't self-doubt, not saying that, NBA players don't get nervous, not saying that they don't
Right.
have anxiety, but there is a level of confidence that you have, a baseline level of confidence that you have to make it in that league, because it's just so hard. It's so competitive. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have faith in yourself to make it, to
No,
get.
absolutely. So what are some tips that you would give the listeners to build confidence?
I would just say be unrealistic. Like for me, I'm very unrealistic in the sense I think that I can do anything. And I
I
think the
like that.
greatest people and the greatest inventors were like that. The Wright brothers, who would have thought that you could get, thousands of pounds of metal to fly through the air? You know what I mean?
That's true.
Who was sitting there and was like, you know what? I would like to talk to somebody that's in a different country right now. Like that, those thoughts are unrealistic until they are realistic, until they're real. Like before cell phones existed, before microwaves existed, before, just think about everything. Someone
Yeah.
had to sit there and be like, you know what? I'm gonna create this thing and it doesn't exist, and no one's used to it and no one believes it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And so I would say, be unrealistic. Believe in something, that believe in yourself, think that you can do things that no one else thinks you can do, that you didn't think you can do yesterday. Just wake up and just be like, hey, I'm gonna do this. And then, continue to believe it, continue to speak it into existence, continue to put the work in to make it happen, and then it'll happen. Like I truly believe I can do anything, and
Yeah.
that's the difference, I think, with the type of confidence you can do. And I also, I think that it's tough, but I believe that other people can do anything too, because I believe that I can do it. So I think that, when I'm
I
like, hey,
like that.
we can come in here and we can win a championship, or we can come in here and we can do X, Y, and Z, because I think anything is possible.
No, I love that. And were you always like that? Or were these things you had to develop in order to become who you were?
I think I've always been that way. I've just been, creative in that way, and had this type of faith, I think. So I think that part is innate, but I do believe that it can be learned as well.
Yeah.
I think that it can be learned as well. I think that, you know, there's a switch in your head where you say, you know what, from here on out, I'm gonna approach life like this, and I'm gonna believe like this, and I'm gonna do what it takes to make it happen. It's almost like, hey, you shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars, and that's me. I played in the NBA. It was a great experience, but I didn't have the career that I wanted to in the NBA, right? And I don't, honestly, not a lot of people do. um,
Yeah.
but what I learned in the hard work and the work ethic and all of the above from my process and how I approached it in my journey, I'm a head coach at 34 because of that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen if I don't approach everything how I've been approaching it. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I was shooting for the moon, which is the NBA, but I ended up, amongst the stars, which is a head coach super early. And that's kind of how you have to approach it. You have to have this blind faith that's, I'm gonna put this work in,
Oh,
and no matter what, something good is gonna happen. Now it might not be what I'm shooting for, but something good will happen and come from all the work that I put in.
oh, I so believe that. That's why I always say, like, life happens, expect it to work out. Like life happens for you. And it
Right.
might not be exactly what you want, but it's exactly where you should be. But
Exactly.
you're a head coach at 34. I mean, the NBA is obviously could still be very much in your future,
That is true. That
you
is true.
know?
You never know. You never know. But along this whole thing, and one thing that you have to realize is that you have to stay in the moment if you're gonna stay sane. Right. And so you
True.
can be ambitious, and you can, have all this stuff, and you can be unrealistic. But you have to cut it off at a certain point and enjoy the moment and stay in the moment and focus on the moment, right? And so, again, this whole thing is a balance. I think life is an oxymoron, but you got to figure it out, right? You got to figure it out. And so, like, I'll give you an example. I have a process where in the morning I meditate, I journal, and I pray. And that's kind of like what I count as visualization, right? What I
Yeah.
want to happen, right? I spend 10 minutes talking about what I'm thankful for, right? Which
Okay.
puts me in the moment, 10 minutes of meditation, which also puts me in the moment. And then my prayer and my visualization, 10 minutes each, are, uh the crazy, things that I want to happen, right? And then when I'm done with that, I'm done with that, and now I'm focusing on today, right? But
Yeah.
I give every day, my dreams and ambitions and all that focus time every day. But then after that, I'm focusing on making stuff happen right now.
I mean, I like that morning routine. So you get up and then your first 30 minutes of the day is dedicated to, do you set a
Or
timer?
it's an hour. Yep, I got a timer. I got 10 minutes of meditation,
Okay.
10
Wow.
minutes of gratitude. I got 10 minutes of visualization, and then I got 10 minutes of prayer. And then for the next 20 minutes, I read. And so it's an hour.
And then you get in the shower and you start your day and you're
It's on.
present in the moment. Wow.
Now it's on. Now it's to-do list and trying to knock stuff out.
I really like that because I think your morning routine really can dictate what you accomplish, how happy you are as a person, how successful you become. I think it's how you start your day is so important. And
5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. Have you read that?
I have not.
So you read that, and he has all these statistics about the most successful people in the world. They all
Uh-huh.
they all wake up at 5 a.m. And the reason is it's like uninterrupted time. It's time where you can be selfish for you, right? You have kids, family, job, whatever it is, school, whatever it is. At 5 a.m., none of that stuff is going on, right? And you can
Yep.
just focus on you. And so, you know, that's been a routine that I've been doing for, I would say I'm probably close to a year now. And it's helpful. It really is
Yeah.
helpful.
No, I do like that because I think most people they wake up based on the time they have to leave the house, right? It's
Right.
all
Right.
determined on that and then how much time they need
Mhm.
to get ready.
Mhm.
So they miss out on all that morning routine or they just roll out of bed, run to the shower, get dressed and out the door.
When you do that, when are you giving yourself time?
Yeah.
When you roll out and then you're just like you're just gone. When do you get the you time? Your you time
Hmm.
where you're visualizing and you're praying and you're meditating, you're being grateful, or you're just reading. Reading is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And when do you do that if you're always just waking up and going straight and getting straight into it? You know what I mean? It's hard because at night
Yeah.
it's hard to read at night for me.
Yeah. Well, you get tired and all that, but I
It'll put
think
me
there's
to
a
sleep.
lot of people that probably don't wake up at 5 a.m. because people just I think that people stay up too late
Mhm.
doing useless things, scrolling on your phone, watching Netflix
Right.
or the news or whatnot instead of actually using that. But they're saying you're not supposed to look at your computer or your TV or anything an hour before bed.
That's what they
That's
say.
the reading time.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be, for me, I like watching shows. I like doing that
Yeah.
stuff. And so I try to do it, and I try to be efficient with my time to where I can watch a few episodes and then go to bed and be able to wake up early enough. And of course, okay, look, it doesn't have to be 5 a.m. It can be 6, it can be 7, but enough time ahead of what your schedule is in order to give yourself an hour.
Yeah. And so let's talk about your gratitude. When you're doing your 10 minutes of gratitude, are you just kind of saying out loud or talking to yourself or are you
All in a
journaling?
journal. All in a journal. Let me see if I have my journal. Oh, here's one.
Yeah, I've got to see. So, so for 10 minutes, you're just saying, I am grateful for, and
Right.
then and is it a lot of the same stuff every day, or is it
It's a
based on the
lot
day
of,
before?
as you can see, it's all kinds of stuff, just writing and writing and writing and writing. I know I have my weird filter on, but
Wow.
it's a free flow of writing, right? So I'm gonna write for 10 minutes straight. And if you've ever written for 30 minutes straight, like it's at first it's hard, but then like honestly, I feel like I run out of time. I have this timer and it dings, and I'm like, God, I wasn't done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's
But
like
then
a
I go
brain
on,
dump.
yeah, but then I go on to the next thing. And so yeah, thank you for waking up. Thank you for, my kids. Thank you for my wife. Thank you for health. Thank you for, I mean, you just keep going and you keep going and you keep going. Um, and you're right. It's like a brain dump. You're getting it
Yeah.
all out.
And gratitude is so important. I've talked about it on this podcast a lot, and I've talked about it in the book. But yeah, it's like you when you're grateful, that's when more things show up to be grateful for, and it also sets you on a positive note. You're not looking or saying, well, why don't I have that, or why am I not here yet, or why am I still struggling? You're actually then focused on the good stuff that you do have in your life.
And it puts a lot of stuff in perspective too, because once you
Yeah,
spend 10 minutes of saying or talking about the things that you're thankful for, and you're like, damn, things aren't that bad.
yeah.
I 10 minutes worth of stuff that I'm grateful for. Things can't be that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, exactly. So no, I think this is brilliant. So where can the listeners find you, follow you, find more information?
Yeah, it's just, Instagram and Twitter is just my name, Xavier Silas. And
Okay.
it's just that's it. It's pretty simple, straightforward.
Yeah. And when does your season start? March?
Starts March 22nd is our first game.
Okay. And where can people watch that are not in Puerto Rico?
You know what? All of our games are on YouTube. They're all live on YouTube, and then they're saved
Oh,
on
nice.
YouTube as well. So you can go on there and you can search Guanabo Mets and you can watch the games. And even if you can't watch it live, you can go back and watch it. So it's actually pretty cool and easy. It's like easier than ESPN, like people can really go and watch if you really want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's great. And so you're going to move down there just for the season?
I am, yeah. So I'll be back and forth between there and Colorado. So
Okay.
it'll be a good experience. It'll be a good experience for the kids as well, to get to experience another culture and all that. So it'll be good.
Oh, absolutely. And I've been to Puerto Rico, and it's beautiful. The weather's good. At least
Mhm.
you're getting out of there in July though before it gets too hot.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Spending summer in Puerto Rico doesn't sound too bad, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that'll be great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate that. You guys go follow him on Twitter and Instagram. Definitely check out the new team when they start in March. And I appreciate you, Xavier, coming on and sharing your kind of mindset and focus routines with us, which I think are extremely helpful.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody who's listening, wherever you may be. I appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.